Selvin, Trotter. We welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious. And this is Friday, August 9th, 2024. And we have Selvin Trotter on the board today. Thank you, Selvin, for pinch hitting. Marty Winkel's on vacation, my partner in crime for 4 years on our video podcast. And our intern Logan Cope is off today. So uh, Selvin's giving me the thumbs up there. I'm going to have a swig of some. Uh, what am I having a swig of? Yeah, of course. Tang.
Hey,
Tang out of a glass that Dave Stangy's watching. Thank you for the Detroit glass here. Ah, it is refreshing. Selvin, we need to order more. We're just about out of we're out of Tang. Okay, so put that on our whiteboard of necessary supplies we need here at the American Space Museum, located in downtown Titusville, Florida. Hope you have a chance to come and visit us someday. Here's how beautiful our front looks out there with a couple replicas of the Saturn V and an Artemis rocket. And of course, we are flag waving here like nobody's business, is that's what we represent, is America's wonderful space program. You can help us anytime. Like Winston Scott is saying there's a tab at the bottom of our YouTube channel on the repeat shows, on yesterday's show, that has a dollar sign and thanks. And we're grateful to people like Cliff Watson, who'll be joining us when he wakes up in Pomona, Australia here in a few minutes. Selvin, I did not bring my, hand me my smart tablet on the chair over there. Forgot to bring that over with me, and it's been a Friday here in muggy Florida. Thank you, sir. Then I can talk to you folks there. Get me cranked up here. We are going to air a Winston Scott interview with Roger Crouch and his wife Ann next week. Probably Thursday when I'm on vacation, or start a vacation for a few days. So we're all getting our vacations in around here. But Selvin or Winston, thank you for all you do to support us. And there is the thank you system there. You go all the way up to $500, increments of $20, 50, and so forth in there. And though YouTube does get a chunk of it, all right, it's one of the vehicles that we use to go here. So um, we got Manned Space Flight Center. Mitch is saying hello to everybody. Yes, we got that birthday to Dee O'Hara's birthday today. Talk about that in a minute. Dean Babcock says hi. John the Beagle Dad. He did visit our very cool place. Everyone should go see us. Thank you, John. And hello there, Carlton and us museum minions here. Yep, that's Selvin behind the board. And we need to get you in here, CB, and get a gray volunteer polo shirt on you. But he's been busy out at the Space Center. A few rocket launches are going on now. One was scrubbed today. Might have two Falcon 9 launches on Saturday. CB, I'll probably see you out at the... Here, I want to thank some of our followers there as I'm rattling off there. A list of some of you, okay, that have supported us the past 4 years there. And there's a lot of names on that list that have been watching very frequently. But there's some of the old timers on there, including Tom Celentano, Hazel Banks, Gary Gerald, Dave Stangy, Robert Law, been with us an awful long time. William Whiting, Doug Forrest. So I got 2 R's on that Forrest. Yep, I do. Doug there, so he'll be happy about that. But seriously, we're like all nonprofits struggling right now, and we can always use your support. Part of it is watching this show and telling people that you enjoy it, because we're monetizing our YouTube channels here, and it's based on how many ads you all watch, basically. So we're grateful for everybody that supports us, and that's just a few of our staunch supporters over the years. Up to episode 1110, something like that, Selvin.
Wow.
And you've helped for a lot of them. So here's an interesting picture from Carlton Bailey, who's watching today. This happens to be a rare opportunity that happened last night in 1990. in time history. That is the orbiter on the left. You should immediately know that that is Columbia. Why? Because it's got the black wing there. On the front of the wing, it's got that black painted part there that Terry White's told us that they painted for heat resistance, and then it wasn't needed, so they didn't do it on the other orbiters. And that's got a name, and I'm going to lay that name on you next time. Terry will be here Tuesday, so maybe we'll talk about that then. But that's Columbia on STS-35, which is the Astro 1 mission going out to Pad B, and that is coming into the VAB, a top secret DoD mission, STS-38, that had a hydrogen leak. And they actually put the 38 back out there on Pad A, launched it on November 15th, 1990, and then the Astro mission was launched in December 1990 out there. So rare opportunity. Carlton Bailey, you the man, being out there and capturing those very important investments of America. The taxpayers paid at least $2 billion and more like $3 billion for each of those orbiters alone, and then all the accoutrements there, the external tank, the solid rocket boosters, and don't forget the crawlers with the mobile launch platform on top of them. So great share, CB, and I'll share that on a post this evening. Maybe I'll save it for the weekend for a weekend update thing there. So happy birthday to not an astronaut, but one of the most important people of the Mercury program who was not an astronaut, and that's this lady, Dee O'Hara, 89 years old today, born August 9th, 1935 in Nampa, Idaho. She was the first aerospace nurse to the NASA astronauts. There she is, loading up a syringe. Of course, don't know how active she is, but for the last 10 years, she's been pretty active as a popular speaker at space events. She enjoys telling the well-known stories about astronauts, but refused to write a book about them to keep their secrets confidential. After all, she knew a lot about the astronauts. There are stories that astronauts walking down the hall of Hangar S and would see her coming the other way. If they had a little sniffle or had to cough or sneeze or something, they'd duck in the other room so she wouldn't pass by them and kind of, are you okay? You look like you might have a fever. No, I'm fine. But nice handwriting there, Dee. I've never met her, but she stayed with the program through the Gemini, Apollo, and Skylab. Okay. But she was the official nurse to even the families of the Mercury 7. So quite an insider there. There was a book written about her that's hard to find. Astronaut Nurse. I understand it can sell for $40 or $50 if you can find one, paperback. But she's not written her memoirs of her experience, but I'm sure many of you have heard some great stories from Dee, including Mitchell Rothman. You've probably seen Dee at some events that you've been at there. So happy birthday, 89. Wow, good run for her. I'll have some tang for that. Well, Steve Jokums has joined us from his Lake County Spaceport up on the shores of Lake Michigan above Chicago. And yes, Carlton points out the radar mounted on the vertical stabilizer is also a way to see it there. Robert Law met Jon McBride several times, so I hope you enjoy my little recap of his life today. And happy Friday up there to Dave Stange. So we really don't have an update on Karen Conklin, our executive director. She is battling cancer, lung cancer. She had a third chemo treatment earlier this week, and that prohibits any guests at her home for 10 days or so. So keep her in her prayers and thoughts, Karen Conklin, battling cancer, and has been part of this museum for over 20 years. So God bless her. Well, the shuttles of the month of August are some only 9 missions, but some interesting missions. And today we're going to talk about STS-43 Tidris, launched on the 2nd, up there till the 11th. But something very important and significant happened up there on this date in space history. Tell you about that in a minute. Jim Adamson was a mission specialist on that, and then Jim Adamson was an astronaut on the DoD mission, STS-28, there on the right-hand side. And we're going to talk about 2 other missions, 105 and 118 there, that were launched, how many years apart there? 6 years apart to the International Space Station, and boy, did it change in that 6 years. Also in the month of August, we'll talk about later the STS-41D, the space truck that it was to be in 1984, deploying 3 satellites with our friend Charlie Walker on it there. And Judy Resnick also flew on that mission. So, and our friend Nicole Stott, she has a mission on STS-128. Nicole has been a great supporter of our museum, does an autograph session or something with us once a year. And then also STS-8, can't wait to talk about that. The first night launch of the shuttle, first African-American to go to space, Bluford, Guy Bluford, and again, a space truck situation going to space up there. But what was happening for the first time ever in human history was done by this man. There's Jim Adamson in space, and he's become a friend during the winter months. He is down in Florida and attends the NASA luncheon of old timers that I've been privileged to go to. And so Broke Meal even bought a lunch or 2 for Jim once in a while to surprise him and thank him for his service to our space age. And he's up in the state of New York right now, enjoying the fine weather up there in his summer home. But what Jim did on this date in 1991 was send the first email message from space. It was on a Macintosh. They even had a patch for it, STS-43, Mac in Space 2, all right? And the message sent today by Jim Adamson and Shannon Lucid to Marcia Ivins at Houston Space Center was, "Hello, Earth. Greetings from the STS-43 crew. This is the first Apple link from space. Having a great time. Wish you were here. Send cryo and RCS. Hasta la vista, baby. We'll be back." And that sounds exactly like Jim Adamson. He's a fun guy. He's a very serious West Point graduate. Has been involved with the International Space Station Safety Committee for 20 years. It's been in. He just segued off of that after the chairman, General Tom Stafford, died, and he was good friends with him. So there you have it, the first email sent from space to Houston to Marcia Ivins, and I don't know what she replied back or not. Maybe they are, but how cool is that to think about? I sent at least 5 emails today, several in the last 2 hours. Selvin, how many emails you send today?
20.
About 20? Okay, Selvin's laughing. Said he spent about 20. It's something to think about, though, isn't it? All right, back at key that UCAC microphone on there when you're talking there. I mean, but it's something to think about, isn't it, Selvin?
It is.
You sent 20 emails today.
20.
And we rely on it so heavily, but think of all the emails being sent back and forth from Boeing engineers to SUNY and Butch up on the International Space Station right now. Holy cow. But yeah, it was called Apple Link. All right, so hope y'all enjoyed that. Tom Celentano says he sat at Dee's table during an autograph show at the a banquet he was at Saturn V Center. That would be cool. You have to tell us more about that. Here is Jim, his official NASA photograph, and a photograph I took of him a couple years ago. Like I said, he's one of the great guys. He's a different kind of astronaut. Selvin, in that he made a conscious decision not to be very public, all right? And he is very difficult to nail down for any public appearance. I've tried to get him for our astronaut memorial in January, and he just says, "Mark, I will come and attend it, but I really don't want to speak at it because once you start, it's like opening a faucet. You can't stop." And I've learned by talking to other astronauts, it is either you're going to be out there and be doing 4 or 5 public appearances a week, or you're going to do none. And Nikki Stott's a great example. She's out there, hardworking astronaut, always out there in public, promoting her book. And another hardworking astronaut is Don Thomas, the Ohio Knot. He does over 300 appearances a year. I heard him talk about one time. Always going to school groups every week. And Jim Adamson says you either do it or you don't. And he says, I choose not to do it because, I want to enjoy my retirement and life. And he's very active. He's a master pistol shooter, once had a gun shop and business. But not to say he doesn't do things, ever. But I see now where you got to make that decision. And the DOD mission he was in on STS-28, I tried to pry him some of that knowledge out of him a little bit, and he just gives me the hex sign. He says, Mark, you're trying to get me in trouble by talking about things I shouldn't. What's the odd thing about these Department of Defense missions is even Gary told us the other day that he had signed so many non-disclosure agreements, okay, that yet he reads about the top secret thing he signed a non-disclosure agreement about. He's reading about it in Spaceflight News or one of the trade magazines at the time, like Aviation and Space Weekly, that was once very, very popular. So just a little background there of how different astronauts are different on there, and we'll move on here. There is the launch of, that is the launch of here we're going to talk about first 105, because it was launched on August 10th, and August 8th is Endeavour launched. I got them kind of backwards here in the launching sequence, but always love the beautiful photography of the launches there. So Robert Law says STS-43 was an important mission for me because it was the first that he watched on satellite TV on CNN. So that's a breakthrough there. What year was that? STS-43 was in 91. So 1991 was the first time you could watch in Europe live shuttle launches. Think about that. They've been waiting since 81 for that. The 105 went to the International Space Station. This was a crew swap out, okay. That's why I got ahead of each other. This was the third expedition crew to be taken up, and they brought back the second crew. And let me just grab that beautiful, beautiful patch there for us here. 108, 105 in our book here. And there we go, right there. 10. Boy, the numbers got such out of sequence. It was kind of really, really amazing. Let's see, they did that one, then that one, then they had to go up there and put that up there. Oh, there's 105. Okay, the patch. Let me get my glasses on here. The patch symbolizes the exchange of Expedition 2 and 3 crews aboard the ISS. 3 gold stars near the ascending orbiter represent the U.S. commanded Expedition 3 crew as they journey into space. The 2 gold stars near the descending orbiter represent the Russian commanded Expedition 2 crew in their return to Earth. The orbiter plumes represent the U.S. and Russian flags and symbolize the close cooperation between the countries. The astronaut office symbol depicts the unbroken link between the Earth and the newest, brightest star on the horizon, the International Space Station. The orbiters form a circle representing the crew rotation and our continuous presence in space aboard the ISS. Names of the Discovery crew members are on the border. Names of the Expedition 2 and 3 crews are on the chevron at the bottom. And of course, going up was Frank Culbertson and 2 Russians. And coming down were Americans James Voss and Susan Helms, the first woman to occupy the International Space Station permanently. So, love the meaning of the patches. They're beautiful symbols of art, and the A in STEAM, in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, where the A could be astronomy or aerospace or aeronautics or astrobiology. Doesn't say who the artist is on that there, but and so there's the cruise there that went up. Ooh, that's a bad resolution there. And this is what the space station looked like 13 years ago. All right. Basically, one gigantic solar panel system put together, 2 smaller ones, and it is still just a link of sort of school buses, if you will, for where the astronauts were habitating. All right, so then we're going to move on to another shuttle of the month of August, STS-118, and this was when they did the stylized Hollywood type of pictures there, and this is when Barbara Morgan went to space. Of course, she went to space, was the backup to Krista McCullough. All right, so in 2007, she goes to space. Alvin Drew, what the heck is down there from left to right there? 118, yeah, that's 118. Okay, and thought Alvin Drew was on this mission. I think someone got pulled off of this. Maybe one of you know the explanation. Charlie Hobaugh is the pilot. Rick Mastracchio, I see Rick there. He's on the bottom left there. He did a spacewalk. Canadian Space Agency's Dave Williams is there. The commander is in the middle at the top, Scott Kelly. All right, one of the twins, Mark, his brother. You got Barbara Morgan in the back row there, too. You got Tracy Caldwell Dyson beside Barbara. Tracy's there beside Scott and Kelly, and she's on the space station right now. This was the last time she was on the space station in 2007. All right, that'd be 17 years ago. No, she went up. This was her first flight. She went up again on a second mission up there. So, a little puzzled why I'm looking at a picture of Alvin Drew up there, part of this crew, and he's not in the picture. Because he's Morgan, Caldwell, Mastracchio. Williams, is he the Canadian? Yep. All right, Williams is there on the bottom. Drew, Hobaugh, and Kelly. So it's this guy right here that got scratched. All right, I'm positive of it. What's his name say on there? He got replaced for some reason. And I don't know why, because I hadn't done my homework on STS-118. And there's the patch there, so we'll figure that out later. But then when they left the space station 7 years after STS-105 did, here's what the International Space Station looked like. All right, quite a contrast there. So love talking about our space shuttles, and the history of them lives on every day in what we're doing here at the American Space Museum and on the Space Coast. STS-28 and 118 do share the same liftoff date of August 8th. Thanks for pointing that out there, Tom Celentano. And yes, Clayton Anderson had to be replaced. Thank you, Neil 1030. He's our logical guy to straighten me up there. That is Clayton Anderson. Wait, jumping the gun there on Big John. Yep, that's Clayton Anderson there on the right. Don't know why he was replaced, but he was. And it could be anything from one astronaut, had a bicycle incident and strained his knee and so forth on there. So, but I do know Alvin Drew He's on the patch here. He went to space in his set. But Anderson's on there. Oh, I see. The patch I have there has Anderson, but not Drew on it. All right. There's a whole other story we can stay curious about there. So thanks, Neil 1030, for straightening me out there. And that's what she looked like compared to, let me go back to what it looked like. Look at there. In that, from 2001, 6 years later, this is the difference in that space station. They have been working their butt off on making it what it is today. So, all right. The shuttles of the month of August, we will visit a couple of those next week on Stay Curious. So, wanted to share with you a little bit about Jon McBride. And I've got a few notes here about Jon let me put these other notes aside here. But first, I wanted to show a picture that was a pretty recent picture. When I met him for this, like the third time, was at an event that the American Space Museum did 7 years ago. You don't know, Jon McBride died this week at age 80. He had one space flight, and he was scheduled, after being a pilot with Bob Crippen, he was scheduled to be a commander of a Astro 1 mission that was to fly in March of 1986. And of course, January 28th, 1986 changed all that for Big John and a lot of them up there. Born on, let me get you his exact birthday here. Right. August 14th, 1943 in Charleston, West Virginia. He grew up in Beckley, up on the Interstate 77 corridor. A proud West Virginia, okay. They're the Mountaineers up there, is the college name. And he attended that university and then went into the Navy. He was a Navy pilot and got his chops at, of course, the Pensacola Naval Air Station in Florida. And then he went to test pilot school at Edwards Air Force Base. And I'm going to tell you a story to end Stay Curious that he shared at the wake of John Young, one of his heroes, of becoming an astronaut there. So here is from the family, particularly his son John Jr., that they posted on Facebook. Dad, a.k.a. Big John. Imagine the longest list of adjectives to describe grief. It would not be long enough to describe how it feels to lose our dad. Imagine the longest list of adjectives to describe joy. It would not be long enough to describe the joy of walking through life with our dad. The loss today was not unexpected, but it is raw and painful. The memories will fasten us back together eventually. The family is currently grieving the loss of our dad, and in the next few days we will share more info on his burial in his beloved home state of West Virginia and memorial service later this year at Kennedy Space Center. There will also be trees planted at Johnson Space Center this year for some mighty contributors to space and humanity, and I know my dad would be proud to have his tree planted among those and that preceded him. And that is from his son Jon McBride, and you're going to see a couple pictures of Jon here. I've met him many times also, and God bless you and your family, Jon. That is some choking words there to read that he posted on Facebook about his dad. He did let on Facebook that his dad had Alzheimer's and was apparently in good health the last few years that he's been diagnosed with the Alzheimer's. He was at one of his last public events. I'll show you another picture of here too. So got some kind of recent pictures of him. He did get out and about and was enjoying life till the end. There is, of course, his NASA blue suit there. Handsome guy. He, of course, was one of the tallest astronauts at a little over 6 foot. just so proud of his West Virginia heritage. In fact, he after his astronaut career, he actually ran for the governor of West Virginia, uh, uh, in as a Republican, and lost the nomination to Cecil Underwood. This was 1996. So many astronauts try to get into politics, and Jack Lausma's one that ran for a seat in Michigan. And but Jack says he was glad he didn't get it because you don't do any policy making. All you do is go to dinners to raise more money so you can keep your job, is what Jack Lausma's perception of his political ambitions were. Well, let's have more about Jon McBride there. There's his crew that flew to space, 7 members there. 5 were rookies, okay? Only the commander, Bob Crippen, and Kathy Sullivan. Not Kathy Sullivan, of course. Sally Ride had been to space before on there. And so John was the pilot with his hero, Bob Crippen, there. He flew on the STS-1 flight. Jon McBride was honored to be the chase pilot for STS-1. He says they were high overhead, 40,000 feet, when John and Bob came out of orbit and made that first landing at Edwards. I joined them at 30,000 feet. We were their primary, they called us safety chase, because I think the best thing that came out of the rendezvous with them was that we got some good photography. And as the chase plane on STS-1, McBride said our primary job was to scan the shuttle as it came out of orbit, because we'd never done that before. And if there were hydraulic leaks or some missing parts of their control system, we could tell them. I don't know how much good it would have done, or what they would have done, but fortunately there was no problem. Yeah, they wouldn't have time to do anything except like, hey, that rear flap's missing, so you're going to crash. John was involved as a smart guy. He was involved in certifying flight software for the Shuttle Avionics Integration Laboratory called SAIL. All right, and he worked Capcom on 4 or 5 missions, and after landing on 41G, was named commander of STS-61E. That was going to be a 9-day flight of Columbia, and with the Astro 1 mission on there. But and he didn't want to wait around after the loss of the 51L crew. He transferred to the Washington headquarters. There he is in space with the IMAX there. So he did his thing with the NASA home office in Washington. And he was overseeing NASA's communications with Congress when he retired from the Navy with a rank of captain. And then he, of course, was part of the 35 new guys, the first group of shuttle astronauts. So he was one of the first pilots, but he was going to get a second flight right away. Looking at, so what everybody knows John for, is that the next? Yes, is the next slide here. That is one of the most iconic photographs that you'd see around the Space Center. Here's Big John shaking a young fella's hand there. Maybe he's got aspirations of being an astronaut, and he's meeting somebody there that's inspiring him. And he became the overseer of the astronaut encounter and dined with the astronaut educational programs at Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex in 2005 until his retirement at 2020. 15 years he did that. He also advised on the landing sequence of the $60 million shuttle launch experience ride. It's really a cool thing to do. This is where everybody got to know Mr. McBride, out at the campus of the Visitors Complex. And he was just a great ambassador of it. This picture it just says it all out there. And and as I got here, I'm saying here, Clay Anderson Neil 1030 was saying Clay Anderson was on 117, so maybe he's moved up. And I get to say hello to my daughter Jessica. Hi, Jessie. And hello there, McKinley and Macy. Hi, McKinley. Grandpa's here delivering the space news for you today. So glad that the family's watching in Tennessee, and I'll be seeing them in a week. So that's where I'm going to vacation. And Dave Stingy and all you grandparents up there know what that's all about. So I'm going to get slobber all over me and loving it from McKinley and Macy there. So hi, kids. Treat your mom right today, okay? So glad that they're watching. Jon McBride did a lot of community service, known in Brevard County, Chamber of Commerce's, all kinds of institutions, but he was on our board of directors, okay, still is, as an emeritus board member, also there with Mr. Fred Hayes. We can't emphasize how important Fred Hayes has been to the development of the American Space Museum. And let's face it, the 10 years that the shuttle was down and nothing launching 2 or 3 times a year here hurt all of the space industry, including our museum. We lost our momentum, been trying to get the mojo going the last 5 years, and things changing so fast in today's 21st century. We have new board of directors here that you see that are trying to, I don't like this word, but we are reimagining what we need to do here at the museum in all areas. So, but Stay Curious is one of the linchpins for our outreach and what we're doing. But there's Jon McBride up there. By the way, Larry Osterley, our board chairman, doing a great job. As he's the rudder of our ship, along with Gabriel Rothblatt there. G. Goddard Rothblatt is our interim director, guiding Selvin, me, and Anita to do what we need to do. Bob Seek's name you see there, a legend of NASA. He was our treasurer for many years. Bonnie King was over the entertainment part of Florida's entertainment trade here. Very interesting lady. And Steve Lloyd's been on Stay Curious there. So we will keep you apprised there. We don't want to take John's name off there too quickly, but he was involved with us here. And so when you know you're supporting us, you're supporting great people like you see here. There's little John with Big John. And John, thank you for your support financially. He also partakes in the auctions and buys space memorabilia. He bought his father's Robbins medal that went to space, all right, at a hefty price there. It came up for auction from astronaut Woody Spring. And John, you're a proud owner of that. So here's John talking to Bob Seek, 2009, I think, the dedication of the shuttle monument. This probably been around 2014 is what I'm thinking. Yeah, this is probably 2014 there. And again, I don't know who these other people are, but I saw this slide in our archives of John on the left, and just an example of a wonderful gentleman, congenial to everybody, wanting to do outreach all the time. All right. And I'm sure when he got home, his dogs were tired and he kicked back with his adult beverage and recharged himself, ready to go for the next day. So did a fabulous job. His job at the Kennedy Space Center, fabulous job of recruiting astronauts to come. And they come for 3 or 4 days. They give 2 public talks of an hour, and then autograph things after the talks for an hour. I figure each astronaut probably signs at least 500 times a day, because there are private one-on-one packages that you can buy to have lunch with them. Sometimes they'll ride a bus around Kennedy Space Center, and you're being told by an astronaut, stuff like that. That was Jon McBride. He built that whole program for Delaware North, managing Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. And then when he stepped down, he handed it to Bruce Melnick, and Bruce did a great job for a couple years. And now now Winston Scott is filling the big shoes of Big John there. to do that important, wonderful astronaut encounter that they do there. So, and you grandkids, Macy and McKinley, will be taking you to Kennedy Space Center as soon as you get a little bit older there, okay? Another shot I found of John with an STS-135. You recognize who's in the green shirt there? You might not without a bandana or a parrot hanging around his neck. That's Jimmy Buffett. And Jimmy Buffett, of course, passed away last year. And not sure who the lady is, which man she belongs to there. Forgive me for that. But I think it's John's wife, Big John's wife there. But there's Jimmy Buffett. He gave a wonderful concert at the launch of the last shuttle, STS-135, in July 2011. And a couple pictures. I think Mark Usiak took these photographs. Thank you, Mark. Little John had a hurt wing there. And this is one of the last public appearances of Jon McBride. He had a little goatee going there. And I looked over, I think you're going to see a picture of him talking there. There he is. I looked over at him. I'll go backwards here. There. Nicole Stott did the honors of being the astronaut to talk about our fallen 17 heroes of Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia. And there's John sitting right there next to a rabbi that came up with a contingent from Miami to honor Elon Ramon. And I looked over there as I'm the MC of this event and at the beginning and noticed little John there. And I'd never seen Big John with a goatee, but I knew it was him. And when I gave him a shout out, he waved to everybody in the crowd there. And then the fun began with everybody kind of getting in on the act there. There is just talk to Mr. White, okay, was in the building today. Terry White. And there he is cutting up. Boy, both John and Terry, I know Terry had surgery on his shoulder there. Let me go back here to show you another great picture where people were posing. There's Tim Gagnon, the patch guy, with Big John. I didn't get a picture with him. That's kind of like my nature. Good wide angle lens there certainly makes a cool shot there. And look at little John getting his picture there. So some great memories that people are going to remember this guy for an awful, awful long time. And I hope they do something at Kennedy Visitors Complex to honor him with a statue or a plaque or something out there. There he is, Nicole Stott. We love you. Thank you for all that you do. And when this is a Nick Thomas there with his arm around John. He cut off the goatee. This is about a year ago when on the right-hand side is Roger Crouch. His wife, Ann, is part of Quilts of Valor. You're going to hear all about that next Thursday when we do a combined interview recorded with Roger Crouch and Winston Scott and Roger's wife, Ann. They present Winston, a Quilt of Valor. And then that's Cameron. Ken Cameron's on the left-hand side there. Oorah for his Marine patch there. They presented a quilt to John, and this is a photo that they took on that day about a year ago. So, and now I'll tell you the personal story that John said. Yeah, that could have been Carlton Bailey's photographs there too, but I think it was CB. You were there for sure. So we'll give you the love for that. All right. And but here's a great personal story. I took this photograph. You see John Young in the background about 7 years ago. I'm wet behind the ears just moving down here. Met you, Tim Gagnon, at this event and looked at his patch vest and thought to myself, I'm going to get to know that guy someday. And sure enough, he's done our Shuttle Fest patch and other things. Well, here's John telling this story. He got the call at about 6 in the morning from the great George Abbey at Johnson Space Center, asking him if he, telling him that he was chosen as an astronaut. Let me get that. Wow, he was informing me that he'd been chosen as and George Abbey was the director of NASA flight operations and a heavy influence. When he hung up with Abby, he says, "Wow, I was awake now. I felt I levitated about 3 feet off the bed." All right. And, but he doesn't relate that story. He relates the story that as a naval aviator, he was being involved with their performance jets and the public events that they have. Not the Blue Angels. I don't think he was in the Blue. He wasn't in the Blue Angels, but he was in some performance acrobatic show that was going on in Houston. All right. I'm going to say Houston, but I could be wrong. It could be out in California. But it doesn't matter because the story is this. Jon McBride said that he'd already been called and told that he was an astronaut, and this was his final duty to do before reporting as one of the 35 new guys in Houston the next week. And he landed his aircraft, canopy goes back, and as he's taking off his helmet and his parachute and whatnot, somebody's pulling up the big long metal ladder that he's going to climb down, and he reached down there to get out and get on the ladder, and he looked down there, and holding the ladder was John Young. And John Young looked up at him and said, "Welcome to the astronaut corps, Big John." And John was about in tears saying that, like I am, my hair on my arm going up there. It was really a moment at John Young's wake that they had there at Kennedy Space Center. So imagine that you're chosen as an astronaut, and yet the astronaut's astronaut, the chief of the astronaut corps, John Young, who obviously had the final say probably in whether you were an astronaut or not, moonwalker, moon orbiter, and then the big kahunas to fly the first space shuttle, and then STS-8 and retiring. And here he was telling Jon McBride, "Welcome to the astronaut corps." It was really a moment for the people watching there, and I'm so glad to share that. Can't believe I found this picture either, but that's when he was talking about it there. That's the type of guy he was, and how people were endeared to him immediately. And I'll be keeping my eyes open for more John Young stories, and this iconic photograph of him just says it all. So hope that you all keep the McBride family in your prayers, and we will definitely let you know when the services in West Virginia are and what's planned here on the Space Coast to honor this great ambassador for NASA and the astronaut corps, Jon McBride, gone at age 80 this week. So thank you all for watching. Stay curious. Hope that you enjoyed how we program things here. Here's our beautiful peninsula. We're actually right there at the horn sticking out there. And hot as heck and humid as heck are here after that hurricane drove by. But looking forward to seeing my family up in Tennessee, way over there. Yeah, I got to go right there's where you are, McKinley. And Mommy and Macy right up there. McKinley's almost 3 and Macy's almost 1. And my daughter's birthday's next week. Same birth date as Kathy Thornton. We're going to be celebrating on August 17th. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for loving the American Space Museum. And be safe out there. Enjoy your lives as we celebrate the lives of others here at the American Space Museum. Until the next time, I'm thanking Selvin for a great job pinch hitting for Logan, who's pinch hitting for Marty. Yes. You got something else to say?
No, I just said you're welcome.
Good. We're glad Gary Gerald, late better than never. If you're late or miss a show, we've got about 600 of them that you can watch on YouTube. So thank you for doing that. Until next time, I'm Marquette saying I'll see you next week. And I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us. See you later.